Gildan Media, a division of Recorded Books, presents No BS Guide to Brand Building by Direct Response, the ultimate no-holds-barred plan to creating and profiting from a powerful brand without buying it. By Dan S. Kennedy, with Forrest Walden and Jim Cavale. Narrated by Stephen R. Thorne. Preface. How this book will transform your thinking about your business and your brand, by Dave D., Chief Marketing Strategist, GKIC. What if a lot of, maybe even everything you've thought about brand is wrong, or at least wrong for you? If you've been thinking of branding as a mystical, magical game changer that would lift your business from ordinary worth to stratospheric value, this book will transform your thinking and put you on a more practical path. If you've been thinking of branding as a cure for all that ails, this book will transform your thinking and provide action remedies you can use immediately. If you've been suffering brand envy and worrying that owning a powerful brand may be way beyond your reach, this book will transform your thinking and empower you to win even if you're a David up against Goliaths. One of the core marketing principles developed by Dan Kennedy, which we teach GKIC members, is that brand building should be a happy byproduct of direct marketing, not purchased outright. This book is a fountain of how-to information and great case history examples drawn from that core principle. GKIC, incidentally, if you don't already know, is an amazing organization of and for marketing-oriented entrepreneurs, small business owners, private practice professionals, and sales professionals throughout the United States and more than 20 other countries, providing unique information, training, coaching, networking, and support. A practical footing. There are two questions we ask entrepreneurs and small business owners to answer. 1. What is the chief objective of your advertising and marketing? 2. Can you actually afford that chief objective? A lot of business owners get sold on the idea of getting their name out there. Visibility, name recognition, community or marketplace awareness. It's an idea that dates back a very, very long way to a time when there were lots of towns with only one or even no hardware store, clothing store, dentist, car repair shop. So when one opened up, announcing its presence created quite a stir. Today's marketplace is obviously a lot different. It's hard today to think of a shortage of just about anything in just about any place. Paying for advertising and marketing so you can announce your existence and get your name out there can now be a costly exercise. If you say that your chief objective in advertising and marketing is to get your name out there and let everybody know who you are, what you do, and where you are, and to create name or brand identity and recognition, I may agree, depending on your business, that it's a wonderful objective, if you can afford it. A lot of traditional brand building you see and might be tempted to copy is done by very well-financed entities with very deep pockets and lots of patience. These examples are dangerous to you if you copy their strategies without also having their money. Once they come to grips with the kind of capital investment needed to build a brand from scratch, most business people throw up their hands in surrender. Many who stubbornly or ignorantly plow forward with brand building on a limited budget find their pockets pretty quickly emptied without having made the impact they'd hoped for and needed to make their business profitable going forward. The blunt truth is that most new business startups and most small businesses that their owners want to grow and expand do not need brand identity or recognition, at least not yet. It's a bit like the person who starts a new company and blows his money on fancy offices in a prime location, stuffed with new furniture, then has no money left for advertising. He didn't need all that to start with. He could have begun in a dowdy office with used furniture or in no office at all. What he needed most and needed immediately is what businesses need most: paying customers to create profits. Maybe that seems obvious. If it does, maybe you'd be surprised by how many people pour money and energy into becoming known instead of making money. It happens a lot. I'm a magician, mostly retired now in favor of my work in marketing. But let me tell you about the most famous magician and the most famous brand ever built in magic: Houdini. It's so well known that there's even a wine cork remover product named the Houdini, and the brand also deconstructed into a generic reference, that is, pulling a Houdini. Houdini originally made himself known town by town, city by city, at a time of very limited media. But what he didn't do was make becoming famous his chief objective. He needed to make money. Into each market he went, where he put on a publicity stunt, early on, getting handcuffed and jailed by the local police in the local jail and escaping, and at the same time that story made news, he plastered the town with handbills advertising a show for which tickets could be purchased. As his reputation grew and his brand name became known, he did bigger stunts and even more advertising to promote bigger and more profitable shows. This process built his brand with zero direct capital investment, as a byproduct of making money. How to think about this and how not to think about this. When you think about your brand, you think about you and your product or business and all your virtues and benefits. You stand in front of the mirror, look at yourself and say, "Hey, I'm smart and valuable and good-looking, too." You think about what you want to be known for and what you want your brand to symbolize. When you want to make money, you think about who has money they might be willing to spend, a target market, and what they would be interested in buying with it, which guides a message. One of the biggest and deadliest marketing mistakes, especially by people with brand on their minds, is trying to appeal to everybody. Everybody is a whole lot of people. It's a huge ocean with big waves, not very nice to small rowboats. Few business owners have big enough boats. The best answer is not waiting endlessly until you can build a bigger boat or being held back forever because you can't. Successful people never let their available resources control them. They work with strategies that can be used with the resources they have. For money now, focus on the best, most obtainable customer, not the idealized brand. It's cool to want to build a famous and dynamic brand that people respect, care about, buzz about. It's a grand ambition, and you can create it, but you need to pay the light bill. At the GKIC Fast Start Implementation Bootcamps, dankennedy.com/bootcamp, we spend a lot of time on what you can do right now. Almost every business owner can identify a small, manageably sized target market or prospect group for which his products or services are ideally matched, and then he can figure out, often with our help, how to directly reach out just to them. He can get response from them, make profitable sales to them, and in the process build his brand 10, 50, 100 people at a time in much the same way Houdini did it, one town at a time. We have a lot of technology and tools today to speed and expand that process that Houdini didn't have and would undoubtedly have kid-in-a-candy-store enthusiasm for. But I'm confident he'd still want to make money as his chief objective. Target market thinking. Again, at those Fast Start Implementation Bootcamps, we tackle key questions about your best prospective customers. Who are they, and what might they have in common? Gender, age, geographic area, income, politics, interests? What motivates them? What is a big frustration of theirs your product or service solves? A secret or stated fear you can ease? A great desire you can help them achieve? The more complete and exact this picture you have of your ideal or avatar customer, the better able you are to develop a very persuasive message for them and attract them to you. If you would like help with developing your customer avatar, there is training from the implementation boot camps available free at dankennedy.com. It will only take you about 30 minutes online to develop your avatar. I know you'd rather think about your brand. Obviously, you bought this book because it promised to be about brand building. It is, and we'll get there, but we are going to get there by a different road than you probably imagined. Here's a brand you know, Snapple. You may very well know at least one of its slogans, the best tasting stuff on earth. You've seen TV commercials. You see it on your grocery store shelves. Maybe you drink it and enjoy it. It's certainly a big brand in the soft drink category, where it is very, very difficult to go up against the well-established major brand names and win some space on the shelf and support from customers. What you may not know is that Snapple was not launched or built with the kind of brand advertising you see for it now. The makers of Snapple were barely crawling around, not even toddling upright, when a very strange and lucky thing happened. The radio commentator Rush Limbaugh was relatively early in his rise and having a lot of trouble convincing any brand name companies to advertise with him. The big brand boys feared negative backlash because of Limbaugh's outspoken conservative opinions and doubted that his kind of talk show could drive retail sales. Rush noticed Snapple, determined it was a very young, small, regional brand with very limited distribution, and thought it would be a great test of his ability to spark widespread interest in a new and unknown brand. So he did a crazy thing. Without selling them advertising or even telling them he was giving them advertising, he began advertising Snapple on his program as if they were an advertiser. Suddenly, supermarket managers were awash in people demanding Snapple. Sales soared where it was available, and requests from supermarket and convenience store chains and operators from all over the country, including areas they'd never yet tried getting distribution, poured into Snapple's offices. The executives scratched their heads at their mysterious good fortune until they discovered the Limbaugh experiment being conducted for them. They then became a real, regular advertiser and built their brand and national distribution rapidly. Limbaugh started, and they, for a time, stuck with very simple direct response style advertising, talking about a problem, being bored with ordinary sodas and beverages, promising a new and different product, and telling people to go to their local store to get it, and if it wasn't there, to demand it. Don't miss the point here of a target market. For Snapple to make itself a famous and exciting brand for everybody, known as Coca-Cola or Pepsi are known, would have required an ocean of money and a cat's supply of lifetimes. But to become a famous brand just amongst loyal Limbaugh listeners could be achieved in a short time with limited, narrowly focused resources. In this case, one audience reached directly with one media. This is why Dan Kennedy says, audience is everything. How I raised myself to success by thinking about customers, not about brand. As I said in my prior career, I was a professional magician. I didn't mention that I was a struggling, almost starving magician when I first heard Dan Kennedy speak and offer his magnetic marketing system, now GKIC's flagship product. At the time, I was trying to become known, and I was struggling to book 3 shows a month. After switching to a direct marketing approach, I quickly leapt to 30 shows a month. Within 1 year, I had totally turned my income and career around. That's when I began to package up, sell, and teach what I had learned about effectively marketing myself to other magicians. The packaging and selling of know-how is called information marketing. You can learn more about it at dankennedy.com/infomarketing. Now, here's what's important about my target market then, other magicians. On the surface, these magicians I wanted to sell my business course to wanted to learn how to book more shows and make more money. But what they secretly, more deeply desired most was to show all the people telling them they'd never make a living as a professional magician that they were wrong. This business grew fast, and was very profitable and successful, and it made me a well-known figure and brand name in the magic field. It's from there that I went on to a bigger business in training and coaching entrepreneurs. I did not worry about building my brand. I set about creating products and sales messages that interested a target audience to make money. The brand building just tagged along. Were I doing it all over again today, I'd probably be more conscious of the brand building, but I would still ask it to ride in the back seat, while up front I focused on driving profits. By the end of this book, if you bought this book because you know the Dan Kennedy brand, the No BS brand, the GKIC brand, or the Entrepreneur brand, or all of them, you probably have a high trust in them and have entered this book confident of having a valuable experience and of having profitable actions to take afterward. By the end of this book, you will know what it takes to use our core principle. Brand building should be a happy byproduct of direct marketing, not purchased outright. You will have met great entrepreneurs and gotten an insider's look at case histories to understand how they have used this principle in practical ways. Now, at the start of this book, all you need is a reasonably open and curious mind. Dave D. is a professional magician, author of The Psychic Salesman Selling System, and an accomplished sales trainer, speaker, and entrepreneurial coach, successful information marketer, and chief marketing strategist of GKIC. He can be reached at dankennedy.com. Chapter 1. The Golden Opportunity and the Harsh Reality of Owning a Brand, by Dan S. Kennedy. Differentiate or Die, Jack Trout. I am often introduced as the millionaire maker, a nod to the fact that my advice and marketing strategies have lifted hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands and thousands, of people new to business, people with ideas brought to market, owners of established but ordinary businesses, and self-employed professionals to seven-figure incomes and to million and multi-million-dollar wealth. I am also often introduced as the Professor of Harsh Reality, which is more in keeping with my main brand, which I'll talk about a bit later. This because I famously rip to shreds illusion, delusion, treasured beliefs, conventional wisdom, and industry norms, and expose charlatans and fakers and theorists. This sometimes makes me unwelcome, and it's possible that will be the case here if you have treasured beliefs, illusions, or delusions about the magical power of a brand. On the surface, asking me to write a book on brand building, as Entrepreneur did, seemed odd to me, and to many who know me well, with whom I shared the mission, hiring a heretic to pastor a church. I am a very vocal, near-constant critic of big brand name companies and their huge expenditures on brand or image advertising. I am incessantly cautioning small business owners, entrepreneurs, and private practice operators not to emulate the behavior of the big brand advertisers, due to their very different agendas, as well as the emperors with no sense in their boardrooms. The potential to brand build your way to bankruptcy is very real. I make fun of corporate goofiness, like the pink bunny with the drum that everybody knows but more than half of consumers queried attach it to the wrong brand of battery, or the infamous Taco Bell stuffed dog that starred in months of commercials, replacing the food, only to produce a decline in sales, or the fortunes spent tweaking logos and meaningless slogans. When I was writing this book, USA Today actually had the unbridled corporate ego to trumpet its new logo, a big blue dot, by the way, as front page news, as if anybody but its designer and his mother cared. Boneheaded corporate CEOs routinely pour millions into brand symbols, logos, and slogans, and issue pompous press releases, even hold press conferences to announce their foolishness. It is routine folly to grossly exaggerate the significance and value of brands. Of course, There are plenty of iconic, powerhouse brands worth fortunes. In entertainment, James Bond, Batman, Superman, The Avengers, Disney. In food, Campbell's Soup and Coca-Cola. Name a category, you can certainly name both corporate and personal brands that have sustained magnetic power. I've never denied that. I've just said that the way many have been built is not by throwing oceans of money into buying recognition, awareness, and familiarity, as most peddlers of brand-building theory and of ad media would have you believe. Also, that there's no warranty of inevitability of brand power or value either. In autos, Rambler was once a good brand. So was Pontiac. It even owned a craze for a time, the Pontiac Trans Am, made famous by Burt Reynolds in Smokey and the Bandit. Oldsmobile, the symbol of having made it, but not wanting to be a show-off. They're all gone, zeroed out. One of the classic cars I drive around in is a 1972 AMC Javelin SST, then a very hot car. Now, people ask, what is that? And often when I say it was made by American Motors, people ask what that was. More people know Jeep, of course, and today it is a valuable brand, but it twice flirted with extinction. Increasingly, a brand is important to consumers, and therefore valuable, in categories of goods or services overcluttered with competing choices and like or identical pricing as a shortcut to decision, desperately needed in an over-busy life. Yet, this value and importance can, in some cases, be long-standing, as with, say, Campbell's Soup or Bounty paper towels. You know, the quicker picker-upper. But it can also lose its grip, as, say, Holiday Inns, or it can go from firm grip on consumer consciousness to utter oblivion, as, say, Timex, or Dr. Spock, once the name and advice for parents, or Firestone, a brand so weakened its name was even removed from its own PGA tournament held at the country club bearing its name. Brands can be important until they aren't. Brand as a holy grail or as a panacea for what ails a business. I buy neither and rail against both. And I strongly caution against pouring capital into a brand, per se. Yet here I am, adding a book on brand building to my stable of no BS books. When I took it on, I had my doubts it could be done without BS. But then again, I have had and have a lot of clients with very valuable brands they grew without having to pour oceans of money into them. That is what this book is about, in terms of strategy and tactics, getting a great brand free. That makes this book radically different from any other books or advice in this category. Everything else about brands is piled high at one end of the library. This little book sits by itself at the far opposite end. A brand atheist, a brand believer. I am fundamentally a direct marketing guy. That means I want to be able to accurately, ruthlessly measure a money return on each and every dollar invested, preferably quickly. No ambiguity, no vague idea of gain by awareness. Show me the money. It also means I want direct response, outreach that brings a customer to the door, credit card in hand. Big, valuable brands can and are created as free byproducts of this kind of direct marketing activity, including many owned by past or present clients of mine. Weight Watchers, a famous brand built with no brand-building advertising. Guthy-Renker's Proactive, an $800 million a year business with a brand worth at least 5 times that much, created, built, and sustained without brand or image advertising, one I'm proud to have made some small contributions to from time to time. Priceline.com, originally raised from scratch by hardcore direct response radio advertising, created and managed by my colleague and friend Fred Katona at Bulldozer Media. The fast-growth software Infusionsoft, which you'll hear about later in the book. These are all valuable brands that weren't bought. There is one brand I know more about than any other, and we'll start this book's journey with it. The photo was first used in 1993 and has since been in perpetual and proliferate use, adorning literature, book covers, catalogs, newsletters, websites, even a bobblehead doll. It's a much younger me on a rented albino bull. The bull itself a celebrity, having appeared in 2 Disney films and at countless trade show booths and shopping center grand openings. Its name is Tiny. Mine is Dan Kennedy, and I'm known for being the no BS guy. The actual business logo representing that brand concept is a cartoon bull behind the international prohibition sign, or no symbol. This brand logo has adorned apparel, caps, wall posters, mouse pads, jigsaw puzzles, toys, pens, flashlights, as well as books, newsletters, websites, and more. These brand images mean something to those they mean something to. Maybe you are one of those people. Maybe not, yet. But maybe its obvious meaning attracted you to or interested you in this very book. No BS is pretty straightforward. It means blunt, unmitigated, unqualified truth. It's said that there is a small market for the truth, and I have found that to be the truth. But it is a small and mighty market, a rabid, appreciative, and loyal audience. Being a truth-teller is not the easiest road to prosperity to travel, but it has proved itself a very reliable and rewarding one. This gets to the question, what exactly is a brand? In the Old West, it was an identifying mark burned onto livestock with a fire-heated iron to thwart rustlers and cattle thieves. In similar fashion, businesses and individuals try to mark themselves with a distinct brand and embed that brand in the minds of the public at large or a specific targeted population to thwart copycatting and commoditization. It can be said about a very distinctive comedian like the late Stephen Wright or Andrew Dice Clay or my friend Joan Rivers that they have a particular brand of humor. Serious students or even great fans of comedy would likely recognize a Stephen Wright or Joan Rivers joke if written out on a 3x5 card. For a couple of decades, Cadillac was so branded on the public brain as the symbol of excellence and status that the phrase, the Cadillac of, was used to describe and nearly co-brand all sorts of non-auto products. This, madam, is the Cadillac of vacuum cleaners, said the door-to-door salesman to the happy homemaker. A brand can be a representation of a philosophy or a philosophical position, a reason to do business with a person or entity, an instant message that communicates what a person or product or business is about. It can be aggressive or gentle, bold or subtle. It can represent the values or aspirations of a community of consumers or followers. It can be represented by a name in distinct typeface like Disney's or IBM's, or by a distinctive image like Apple's or the Playboy Bunny. Many great brands are actually ideas, like Chicken Soup for the Soul, or another of my created brands, Dan Kennedy's Renegade Millionaire System. This is a philosophy and lifestyle brand. It marries two great aspirations. A whole lot of people would like to be rich. If you doubt it, watch the number of people buying Powerball tickets as giant jackpots mount. And a whole lot of people like thinking of themselves as renegades, and many more would love to be if they dared or felt they could afford the luxury. A lot of successful brands are aspirational, like Cadillac and Martha Stewart. A lot of what people believe about brand value, based on academic theory, Madison Avenue ad agencies and their frequent conning of big, dumb companies' leaders out of shareholders' money, and simple assumption that brand automatically equals power is just BS piled high. A lot of money is wasted by small business owners and entrepreneurs on brand-building strategies that mimic those of big, dumb companies. A brand can be a big drain into which money gets poured, kind of like a yacht or a California divorce. or a brand can be a valuable asset, with much of that value measurable. Very accurate appraisal of brand equity occurs through brand licensing.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?